I just saw Black Adam, DC's latest installment into the DCEU, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as The Rock, but superhero. This is going to be a shocking statement, but it's not good. This movie is, without exaggeration, the most archetypal superhero movie I've ever seen in terms of the writing. It is the superhero movie. It's not the best, it's not the worst, but it is the superhero movie. And what I mean by that is this movie is an amalgamation of the safest, most predictable, and most moderately entertaining aspects of the superhero genre. And I can't stress this enough, the writing quite literally feels like it was written by an AI robot. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Hallmark movies that were written entirely by AI. A few years ago, these two scripts went viral because they were written by AI to be a Hallmark Christmas movie, and it kind of works. And every line in this movie feels like a computer program had analyzed every superhero script ever and spit out the safest, most standard response to any question or situation. About halfway through the movie, it got to a point where I was like, it's almost impressive how standard everything felt. Not standard in a good way, like it's up to the standards, but standard in the sense that not one risk was taken on any aspect of this. I'll go into a more broad review of the movie in a second, but I just wanted to get that out there at the start that if you go into this movie expecting anything other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson being a badass, a convoluted plot, some jokes that give you a half-hearted giggle, and a whole lot of cheesiness, you will be disappointed. Now, let's talk about everything else. The film starts with a lovely, massive exposition dump. Just right off the bat, there's just a narrator telling you all the lore of the last 5,000 years and giving you a broad understanding of Black Adam's origin story with very little reason as to why you should care, honestly. And then we're thrust immediately into this extraction heist mission with 4 characters that we know literally nothing about. As I was walking out of the theater with my friend, we were like, wait, what was the name of the main girl and her brother? And we had no clue. Like, we had already forgot everybody's names because they just didn't do a good job of characterizing them enough for you to care. And during this extraction mission, we're probably like 15 minutes into the movie at this point, my buddy Matt, who is a way bigger superhero fan than I am, he leans over and whispers in my ear, I have no idea what's going on right now. And I was so comforted to hear that because like I was just pretending I knew what was happening, and I was like really locked in trying to keep up with the plot so far. And it was reassuring to hear that even a big superhero fan like really didn't understand anything that was happening. I mean, obviously we understood the general premise, which is that, I'm going to read from my notes here for a second. In ancient Kahndaq, Teth Adam was bestowed these magical powers. However, after using those powers for vengeance, he was imprisoned, becoming Black Adam. Nearly 5,000 years have passed, and Black Adam has gone from man to myth to legend. Now free, his unique form of justice, born out of rage, is challenged by modern day heroes who form the Justice Society. Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Atom Smasher, and Cyclone. That was just copied and pasted from Google. That's like a plot synopsis. Where Black Adam really fell short for me, other than the fact that I thought the writing was terrible and it's incredibly corny. So if you like that and you can kind of like get into the cheesiness and appreciate it, by all means, I hope you really enjoy it. But like, I found myself being way more interested in the 4 members of the Justice Society, who even they were eye-rollingly cheesy and just over the top, but they at least had some good chemistry and their powers were cool, and the scenes with them were for the most part like my favorite parts of the movie. But it's hard to root for Black Adam, who's supposed to be this anti-hero. Like, a note that I wrote down immediately after watching the movie, like the biggest thing that stood out in my mind was that it felt like every one of his lines was written for a trailer moment rather than for a script in a movie. You know what I mean? Like, all those lines in trailers, particularly in the Black Adam trailer.
Then I was reborn a god. Now I kneel before no one. Well, I do.
Just the stereotypical line where it's like, I'm not evil, I'm vengeance. It's just a bunch of stuff like that, but the entire movie is just these one-liners from him. I really don't think there was a single monologue from Black Adam. I don't think there was a time when he spoke more than 4 sentences at once. I don't know. I just found it hard to root for Black Adam because every time things got complicated, he would just fly away. Right when there was this point of tension where they really should just like talk it out and come to some sort of resolution, he just flies away and does his own thing. Now, fans of the MCU will notice a ton of similarities between the Justice Society characters and a lot of the members of the MCU. My friend and I immediately noticed quite a few similarities, one of them being Dr. Fate has multiple scenes that look straight out of a Doctor Strange movie. A lot of his abilities seem almost the exact same. I clearly am not really into the superheroes or the comics, so I'm sure there are like some little differences, but generally speaking, there's this one scene where Dr. Fate does something that looks almost identical to Doctor Strange's mirror dimension. He also has the ability to clone himself, so there's like 25 Dr. Fates attacking the bad guy, which was similar to Doctor Strange, but I'm pretty sure for Doctor Strange, it's just an illusion. Like he can clone himself, but they're not actually physical objects, I think. And then there's Atom Smasher, whose suit looks almost identical to Deadpool's suit, yet his abilities are basically the same as Ant-Man. And there's one scene in particular where he is like running, and as he's running, he grows really big. And it looked exactly like a scene that I've seen in one of the Ant-Man movies. I don't know which movie, but it definitely happened. And then there's Hawkman, whose wingsuit is essentially the same as Falcon's mechanical wings. Now, obviously, these characters have existed long before any of the movies came out, so I'm not like claiming that DC stole anything from Marvel. I just think it's inevitable that viewers are going to compare the scenes from this movie with scenes from Marvel, and that's fine. I don't think this movie really did anything better than any of the Marvel movies, especially the humor. There were a few lines where I giggled a little bit, mainly just because I'm with my buddy, you know, there's some references and he's like, oh, haha, and I'm like, haha. But I mean, that was kind of the extent of the humor. But I will say there were a few older couples in the theater who were just cackling a lot and they were having a really good time. So I might not be the ideal demographic for the humor, clearly. I don't want to make it sound like I hated this movie with all my heart. I mean, I had a good enough time with my friend, you know, it was goofy, it was fun. The action was cool, I guess, even though the CGI gloopiness was still very apparent. It's fun to watch The Rock be fucking jacked and rip people in half and destroy shit and slow down time. I thought that was probably my favorite aspect of the movie, was these fight scenes where Black Adam can basically process time differently or something. And I think all the slow-mo battle scenes were the parts that I enjoyed the most. But aside from that, there's not much in this movie for me, you know. Tonally, this movie was all over the place. There was multiple scenes where they would have dramatic music kind of rising to build tension, but yet in the dialogue and in the edit, it would just break all the momentum of tension with jokes and really fast editing. There's one scene in particular that stands out in my mind relating to this issue where this intense music is rising and The Rock is in this lady's apartment with her brother and her child. And to me, this felt like a moment that really should have been like sincere and genuine. And right when it started getting to something with heart and with like a deep, thoughtful meaning, a really bad joke or really quick editing just completely undercuts the mood. And I can't say this is surprising considering the movie went through quite a few reshoots after it received a 60% approval rating from its test screenings. I totally understand the purpose of test screenings from a financial business perspective, but I just think the idea of test screenings in general are stupid. Like, let's show this movie that's completed. It's the creative vision of the director. Well, hopefully it's the creative vision of the director. And let's show it to these groups of random people. And if they don't give it a thumbs up, then we're just gonna go change a bunch of it to make it more palatable for the average person. It just seems gross. I totally understand why test screenings are a thing. And generally speaking, it is a bad sign for a movie if it undergoes a lot of reshoots, as we learned from Justice League. Now, the last major criticism I have here before I wrap this up is that Black Adam suffers tremendously from lack of clarity on who the villain is. I'm sure for all you diehard superhero fans who know the comics and have been hyped up for this movie for a long time, I'm sure you already knew who the villain was, or you kind of understood the lore better, so you like were able to follow along. But I would bet money that if you asked an average moviegoer who doesn't go to a ton of movies, doesn't really keep up with all the superhero movies, if you asked them 90 minutes into this movie who is the villain of the movie you're currently watching, I don't think most of them would know how to answer that question. There's at least two main conflicts, but there's kind of a third one as well. First, there's the struggle between the people of Kahndaq and the oppressive imperial government that rules over them. Then there's the conflict between Black Adam and the Justice Society, since he spends most of the movie beating the shit out of them. And finally, there's a third, less interesting storyline happening between Black Adam and Ishmael Gregor, who we eventually learn is the second Sabbac. I don't know if I said that right. I honestly don't even know if they said that name in the entire movie. After the movie, my friend and I were debating whether or not they ever said the villain's name in the whole movie, and we both thought they didn't because neither of us had any idea what his name was. Maybe we just missed it. I don't know. But by the time we finally learn about the main villain, Sabbac, who happens to be the descendant of the ancient ruler of Kahndaq, the story is already so muddled and confusing that you don't really care. Oh, I feel bad. I don't like being this guy that just tears apart movies. That's why I usually don't even go see a movie if I think that I'm gonna hate it. Not that I hated this one. Like I said, it was fun enough, but I usually don't bother seeing a movie that I'm not gonna have anything positive to say about it because I just don't like doing that. Like, I just don't think it's really worth my time. But for my new job, which I haven't mentioned on this channel, but I actually have a really cool new job at a film and TV related company that I'm not quite comfortable yet sharing the name of the company and exactly what I'm doing, just because I'm kind of new there and I still want to make sure, like, I don't know, I just don't want anything to get weird with like my own stuff that I do in my free time and then the film and TV stuff I do for work. But my reason for saying all that is that now part of my job is actually to see movies and write about movies now, and I'm actually already becoming a better writer. I can feel it. I'm working with an editor who is helping me be more thoughtful, be a lot more concise, and just more confident with what I'm saying. And as a result, I'm going to be seeing a lot more movies that I maybe otherwise wouldn't have seen or cared about because I'm going to have to write about them. So I figured if I'm already going to be writing long form content about new movies, why don't I just kind of repurpose that in some way for my own channel? So that's what this Black Adam video is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. The last thing I'll say here is I personally have this sort of internal indicator on whether or not a movie resonates with me. And I know that a movie doesn't when I catch myself in this sort of daydream state while I'm watching the movie. And that happened near the end of Black Adam. There was a 5-minute period where I unknowingly resigned my eyes to become this sort of passive observer of what's happening on the screen rather than sort of an active engagement with this film and kind of like uncovering the story in my brain as I watch. That kind of just turns off and I'm just like, you know, you're just like zonked out. And generally for me, when that happens, that's not a good sign. That's a bad sign. So that's my thoughts on Black Adam. I think if you want something that offers anything at all new to the superhero genre, this is not the movie for you. But if you like The Rock or you just want to see The Rock do some cool action, beat some people up and like be jacked and epic, then grab some popcorn, go with your friends, and you'll probably have a good time. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like, leave a comment letting me know what you thought of Black Adam. It helps out the algorithm and the engagement with the video if you guys leave a comment and a like, and subscribe if you're new. We're close to 6,000 subscribers, so I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.